Sponsored by Duck Donuts in Clark, New Jersey. It's not really sponsored. I just happen to be drinking one.
Okay. Alright, anyways, this is my husband,
Hi.
Joey.
Hi.
Well, his real name is Joseph, but affectionately referred to by me as Joey.
Yeah, on paper it's Joseph.
And I have a sundae that's kind of melted that I'm going to be eating while we talk to you. Okay. So we've been married for a year, a little bit over a year now, but... Sorry.
Are you going to cut in between us?
No. We've been married for a year now. And so we just want to talk to you guys about what it's been like to be married for a year. Let's talk about what you thought marriage would be like and what it was actually like. Even though we're still technically living it, but yeah.
Alright. I don't know. I guess it's easy to look at marriage outside of it and be like, oh, the best way I can like kind of describe it is like, you know, when you're watching TV and, you know, the dad comes home from work and the wife or mom is home. Like, I don't know, like the old way of things. I don't know, that's like ingrained in my head for whatever reason. So I guess that's what I thought marriage would be like, you know, even though like you worked and stuff at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, that's how it just played out in my head. It'd be very routine. Whereas it's not like that at all. Also, you know, we're talking about 24/7, seeing each other every day.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes like I'm home and you're not home, and sometimes you come home and I'm not home.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, we have like huge lapses of time where it's like it's 10 o'clock at night, I'm going to sleep, and then you're getting home because you do like a background acting thing. You know, or like, hey, I'm doing an overtime and you're gonna be gone because I'm working till 8 o'clock at night. So I don't, what I thought it would be, for lack of a better term, way more routine and straightforward.
Okay.
And marriage is not at all like that in the slightest.
I think that I thought that it would be easier in terms of like that I wouldn't have to put in as much work. Like, I know that sounds silly, but I guess I underestimated the amount of work that I actually have to put in, right? For us to keep the marriage afloat. Of course, you have to put in, you know, work as well too. And I kind of just thought like everything would just like fall into place, for lack of better terms. Like everything would just happen. And it's like, no, you actually have to...
There's effort.
Yeah, you have to. There's an amount of effort you have to put in.
Yeah.
That's different than the type of effort you put in to yourself.
Yeah.
When you are a single individual.
Yeah, it's not the same as dating.
Right.
At all. Not that it's, you know, that much different, I would say, but now it's not like, oh, we're gonna see each other once or twice, maybe 3 times a week.
Right.
You know, and then I'm gonna drop you off at the end of the night, and I'm gonna go back home, and then like, you know, Monday to Thursday I don't see you, and then Friday night we go out. Now it's all right every single day. You have to put up with people. Not that putting up with you is a bad thing. That's a weird way to say it. Scratch that.
I'm kidding.
But like, you know, there's so many factors that really come into it. So
right.
I guess like maybe piece by piece is a better way to explain it. I have to account for not just how I'm feeling about stuff.
Exactly.
I have to account for yours all the time,
mm-hmm.
which should be something that you delve in on while dating. But when you're married, it's everything that happens to me happens to her and vice versa.
Exactly.
So if something bad happens at work, I get laid off, right? That affects our family. Right. How we pay the rent, how we doing this, how we getting food,
and not just financially either, but emotionally too.
Yeah. Because now all our problems and stresses that were individualized are now a family thing. Like it says
mm-hmm.
in the Bible, you know, like 2 become 1 flesh. Like that, yeah. The 2 become 1 in everything. It's not just, you know, like, well, Lord willing, we have kids one day. It's like, all right, we just have kids or whatever, or, you know, it's everything now. Yeah. It's every step we take affects our whole family. I won't say it's stressful. It's new for us, especially since we're just, you know, it's been like like just over a year now.
Yeah.
And it takes some getting used to. And, you know, no marriage, I'm not going to say we're not a perfect marriage, and we're not, having issues, whatever. Like there'll be things that happen
Of
throughout
course.
the time. Nothing that's like, oh, we're
In,
divorcing
in
them,
any
but, like,
in any relationship,
Yeah.
there's hiccups.
there's
right?
hiccups. Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
even in friendships, you guys don't always agree on everything. You
Yeah.
don't always think the same.
but when
right?
like you hit a bump in the road, you have to really sit down and think about it and be like, well, how are we gonna solve this? And the
Yeah.
key here is how are we gonna solve it? You know, because you can't make a decision that benefits one person solely in the entire thing.
But
you know?
I was used to just, oh, I'll just spend my money on whatever. I'll just spend this money on whatever. And it's like, well, no, because like, what if we need that money for something? You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to think about the collective, or for example, I'm sorry using this.
Go ahead.
When you bought like 600 coffees, to film videos with. After a while, we had to be like, okay, let's stop purchasing coffees.
What's wrong with purchasing massive amounts of coffee? I have a lot of coffee that's not drank yet.
Right, exactly. And it's like, well, do we really need to spend? I don't know how much that came to.
I think
but,
one of them, the most I spent on one was like $80.
right,
I
but
got a
like
bunch
there's
of
so
coffees,
there's
you
so
know.
many. Like, so let's just say I'm just throwing out an arbitrary number.
Yeah.
Let's say it was $500 altogether. It's like, well,
Right.
well, do we need to spend $500 on coffee, right? If you lived by yourself, you could just make the decision. Yeah, I'm gonna blow all my money on
know what you
coffee.
mean.
I don't
Yeah,
care.
I used to live with that same mentality, which when I was by myself, you know,
Right.
like I'm big on my Xbox. Find me Cup of Joe. Don't find me, but unless you want to get out sniped, kid. But like when I lived at home, right? You
Yeah.
know, we weren't married and everything, and that wasn't that also like living at home is another thing. But we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But like, all right, I want to buy a game, $60, the $80 version because I get 3 different skins that don't matter in a week anyway. I could do those things, or like I have my tools for work, right? So it's easy to go to the Home Depot and spend $800 on a Milwaukee drill that you know I need, but do like I need to do that, and now it's well, I have $800 that could easily go to rent or anything else. You know, now the business takes care of that, thank God. But like beforehand, it was
Yeah.
like oh, like I'll go to Home Depot and I get lost like a kid at a candy store, and I find myself in the electrical aisle, and I'm like, well, what do I not really need, but I could definitely use today. So I have way more nut drivers than I need. Just throw that out there. You don't know what it is, but
I know.
I'm ready for any job.
Oh, so let's just talk about kind of how we like met and us coming from our parents' house.
All right.
Get
You want
in.
me to tell the story?
Sure, you tell the first half. And
You're
I'll
enjoying your food.
You tell
and
the first half. I'll tell the second half.
Clearly, I'm not camera shy at all. Put a mic in front of me. So I won't go into like the full details. I was at work and I've been talking to someone. Didn't work out. Totally mostly my fault. I was very immature. Even now at 30, I'm still immature. I watch cartoons and play Xbox. As an example given. Thanks.
sorry.
My head. No, I look crazy now. But yeah, immature. I'm like 27 right now, right? And I grew up in the church, but I didn't live it, if that makes sense, which I'm sure a lot of people are watching are like, yeah, that makes sense. Going to church on Sunday does not make you a Jesus following Christian. That's one. So at some point, I was like, you know what, let me start working out, let me start eating better, and then let me start researching and learning about things. And then I was like, well, the mind, the body. And then I was like, let me start reading my Bible and like take care of my soul, you know? Mind, body, soul. That's the premise of what I was doing. So I'm like turning 27 at that point. I'm going through that. I'm talking to someone. Doesn't work out. I'm still growing as a person, I guess. And I prayed about getting a girlfriend, and I audibly heard her time is God's time, which I don't know what had to do with the situation, but I heard that, and say what you will, but I heard that. 2 weeks later, I downloaded the app Hinge, which I know, dating apps, whatever, like there's always that stigma with it. 2 weeks after that prayer, I found Kia on there, swiped right or whatever you want to say, and that was it. We started talking, and she would write like full paragraphs, like full on paragraphs, which I love. Don't get me wrong; it makes it so much easier.
Thanks for embarrassing me.
No, I appreciate that because it's cool when someone writes and they're not afraid to say something and they're willing to put effort, like the putting effort thing in, it goes with anything. But even beforehand, putting effort and saying all the things you said in those conversations. But what stood out to me is that she capitalized the L in Lord. So I was like, oh, you're a Christian? Because like, who else does that really? Like, you're gonna capitalize the L in Lord. You know, you're talking about God, and that she said, yeah, and that was pretty much the not the nail in the coffin. What's the word for this one? That was it for
Icing
me.
on the cake.
That was the icing on the cake. There we go. But yeah, that did it for me. So we started going out like the next week, and it was awesome. Our first date was like 6 hours, right?
You were keeping track of the
I was
hours.
keeping track. It's somewhere between 6 and 8 hours, I think. Our first date, we went to Brooklyn. She lived in Brooklyn. I was in Staten Island. I picked her up. We went to Brooklyn Bridge Park. Walked the entire thing. We got Thai food, by the way.
Yeah, we went to eat first.
We got Thai food first, and then we went to the chocolate room and got dessert.
Mm-hmm.
I drink an espresso at 8 o'clock at night, which will do things to you, like make you not stop talking, like right now. But we went to Brooklyn Bridge Park and we walked around the entire thing, and that was our first date. It was awesome. It was absolutely awesome, and it was like the total of like 6 or 7 hours our first date. So yeah, she's awesome. I love her.
Oh, that's sweet. I love you too.
So yeah,
um.
my ham girly.
Oh, babe, come on. What was I going
My
to
pet
say?
name.
Yes, we have multiple pet names for each other that are very weird.
Yeah. So also, side note to everything being married: if you're gonna be married, you have to have ridiculous pet names and your own kind of language thing going on. Off camera, we have the weirdest things we say to each other.
That we're not going to say now.
Yeah, PG. Don't get me wrong, but it's
No, yeah.
you would think we belong in an
embarrassing.
asylum. Yeah, 100%. I'm sure other people know what we're talking about, like oh my squishy boo boo and stuff like. It's like within those realms of like ridiculous things to be saying. She's my ham girly.
Okay. Anywho, what I was going to say is, to his point, you were living in Staten Island.
Yeah.
With your mom. You hear me saying that?
Yeah, I lived at home until I was 28, right? 29?
Yeah.
When did we get married? I was 29.
You was 29.
I lived at home until I was 29, and I'm not mad about that.
I was living at home in Brooklyn with my mom. I was 25 when we got married, and I'm gonna be 27 next month.
Hey.
But yeah. And so at that point in time, I was not dating anybody. I had a past relationship previously, like a year or two before that I had gotten out of. So for me, it was literally just work, come home, buy stuff, do what you do, and then that was it. Like, I was just solely responsible for myself. Sorry, too much stuff. Helping my mom out, with rent or anything that she needed, and that was kind of really just it. So we were both living very individual, like only child, even though we're not only children, but only child vibes, because we were both in the house.
We were the only ones at our house. I have one older sister. She moved out. She has kids. She's all the way out on the other end of Jersey. I stayed home, and I at the same thing. When I first started going to IKEA, I was working like 10, 12-hour days. I would work Saturday.
Yeah.
The overtime was there, so I took it. It was awesome. Don't get me wrong. Lincoln said it was a great job, but yeah, I would rock the clock too. I mean, you rocked the clock and a half. You were rocking the week.
Yeah.
But
so yeah, I was working a job where it
same,
just
I know exactly what you mean.
had multiple hours to be occupied, and after we got married, I ended up leaving that job for a variety of issues. But it has been, and still sometimes is a struggle for me to transition to not working that like tedious schedule where I am always on the clock and I don't have a break off. And I think, just like being supportive of each other is where that really comes in, because it was really a transition for me. Like, there was a lot of times that I would just cry, like, because you
were so stressed out.
Yeah.
I can't. Like, she'll make a video, I'm sure, one day of it to explain. No. Oh, well, long story short, if you could work 24/7, there we go. If you could work 24/7, she did it. And she used to go to sleep and talk in her sleep, just about anything. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, she doesn't do that anymore. She actually gets a full night's rest. And the difference, she used to have a lot of anxieties. Not going to mention that.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, I probably should have said that before, you know. But yeah, you can make a video on that, I guess.
Why am I making separate videos on these things?
I don't know.
Please?
I feel like there's so many
No.
things in the topics. I don't want to delve off of the first year marriage thing. That was the topic of this.
Right.
And like anything
So
else,
we're just talking about supporting each other.
Yes.
Like, it requires a lot of support in marriage.
Don't let me talk anymore. 'Cause I talk to people like I talk to you. I'm just every conversation at the same time.
No, it requires a lot of support. I would
100%,
say in marriage
100%.
because there was a point where you were laid off,
Yeah,
right?
that
And
was
you
crazy.
needed a lot of encouragement and support during that time. And then there was a time and a time still currently where I am not working like a full-time job and transitioning from being one type of person before marriage and being a different type of person in marriage. Like, you need support for that. And there were times where I was kind of like just grieving that like old version of myself, not because I didn't want to be married, but because that's the only version of myself that I knew.
It reminds me of the Israelites in the Exodus when they're like, why are we in the desert and we're hungry and starving? We're better off in Egypt being slaves. And it's like look at the situation. Like, they were literally slaves in Egypt, and they're going to the promised land. It takes some work and effort to get there. Not to compare it exactly the same thing, but it's very much like that. It's like, well, you were doing all this crazy stuff. You were exhausted, the anxiety. We didn't see each other for like 3 days, 4 days sometimes. We couldn't talk to each other because you were just busy.
Right.
You know, and not to sound selfish, saying,
No.
you know, work. There's important stuff at work,
Of
but
course.
like it's easy to look back at what you had and be like, oh, things were fine. You know, like when I was laid off, like I worked with my brother-in-law, and it was good, and it was a new dynamic than what I was used to. In the union, you know, you have usually you're like on a bigger job like I was, and you go to the one place and you have one task, and you know it's very cookie cutter. It's easy to like go to do work like that. Whereas when you're laid off, it's like, well, now what? You know, I can stay home and collect unemployment, or I can go out and work, and then you're going out and work, and the dynamic is totally different. And I'm in a different state doing it now too. So it's like, well, the rules are different, and now I'm doing houses. I'm not doing commercial buildings. Like that was. What I'm trying to say is, it's easy to look at what you had before and be like, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Because things you got used to it, and that's the difference. Just because you're used to it doesn't mean it's right.
Or better.
Yeah. You know?
There's a lot of learning. Do you want to talk about anything that you've learned thus far, or something that you're still learning? Like,
so in terms of what I've learned thus far, I know you used the word "thus" before in a sentence. Taking into account all the time how you feel about something, and not just, you know, the big things, like how do you feel like if we went and bought a new car, like that. I feel like that's like a big financial thing, whatever. Like, how do you feel like if we moved to, you know, this part of the world? Like those are things you gotta consider regardless. I'm talking about the little things, like how you feel about what we're gonna eat tonight, you know, because there's some foods that I'm good with that you're not good with, or like there's some foods you like that I don't really care for. So we have to find this is what also made the dating so easy for us while we were going out with each other earlier on. It was the little things. We really cared and accounted for the little things the nuances that made us who we were and how we were going to work it out together. When you're married, you know, when you're dating, you can kind of like look over and pass over things. When you're married, you can't. Everything's on the microscope.
It's right in your face.
Every single thing that I do, from waking up to going to sleep, and everything she does from waking up and going to sleep, affects the other person.
And I will call you out about that.
Absolutely. And I want you to, because that's what's going to make this marriage stronger. Like, you know, everyone says the first year of marriage is hardest, and I think things like that, the nuances, like, well, it takes her a certain amount of time to get ready, and now the bathroom is locked up for an hour and a half because she has to get her hair done or do her makeup, and that's something I didn't have to deal with.
Just as long.
I do take just as long.
Okay.
Look at his face. But my hair is my hair. But those are the things, like the little nuancy things you have to take account for. Or, you know, you're using the stove to make food or something like that. Let's say, you know, even though we have our agreement that mostly you'll just do most of the cooking because you like your type of cooking anyway, and she cooks better than I do. But things like that, like, hey, I need the kitchen, but she's in the kitchen. So now we have to make room and make it work, It's the little things and just caring about each other at a degree where it's like, all right, how do I not, like, get mad or annoyed about something that, first off, really shouldn't make you mad or annoyed in the first place?
Yeah. No, we were talking about this today, which I think is really important. That learning how to not take out your stresses on your spouse.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Like, because you're with them all the time. So when you come home from your job or your work, you might not be able to say exactly how you feel to your boss or your coworkers, or you might be holding in some sort of like emotion, and then your spouse is the nearest physical person that you can vent to. And sometimes instead of you just venting your frustrations, you actually take out your anger or take out your emotions on them. And I feel like I can speak for myself. There's been a lot of times where I'm not necessarily upset at you. I'm upset at a situation or just like something in general, but you're there and I'm talking to you about it, and now I'm like getting irritated and annoyed with you because it's like, oh my goodness, so I think learning not to like put my like emotional state on you, right, and kind of talk about it, deal with it, pray about it, but like I don't need to take out how I feel about the world's problems on you.
Yeah. Same exact thing. I've been told that what are the exact words my old former used to say? Not sensitive, but like I take things to heart, like that I probably shouldn't. But because I take my career seriously, which you do too. So we take what we do seriously. We have not like pride, like the bad pride, but like we take pride in what we do. So when things go wrong or it's not working out, or like we had a bad day because someone didn't like the way we did something, we both will take it to heart, and now it's our moods change, and we become like really hard and like to get to. And when I'm at work, I'm at that point I'm just trying to keep up the let's stay cool and just keep moving forward.
Morale,
but like,
is that the right word?
The morale, yeah. We try to keep the morale moving, but it's kind of hard sometimes.
Yeah.
And then you come home and it's like, like you take your tool belt off, you're done. One of those things where you take your boots off and you just kind of like sit in and you're like, you think over your day and how all that stress is like in your head. I have a problem where I can't just let it go, and my friend Richie's constantly saying, like, you gotta learn to separate work and home. And he's good at that. He's got the experience where I still am working on that. And it's been worked on since before we got married, and it's still a thing. But because of things like that, I'll come home and I'll just kind of like, I'll snap at you about something. And it's after I say something that it's like, oh, wait, I have to like take a step back. She usually calls me out on it. I got a little better at like, not doing it, but things like that. It's a learning process in itself, separate of just marriage. It's the personal thing at that point. But because it affects me, it affects her. So learning to deal with things that affect you, solely you, so you can work with your partner.
That's a good thing, and that reminds me of something else that I learned is that just because we're married and the two become one, it doesn't mean that I'm not an individual person anymore. And for a while, I was kind of getting annoyed at you when you didn't want to like go places with me and stuff. Like, not that you didn't want to go places with me and stuff, but it's like I did want you to go like everywhere with me. Like, oh, come with me to the mall, come with me to do this, and come with me to do that. And it's like, well, I want to stay and play my game, or whatever it is. And it's like I was kind of getting annoyed because we moved to a new state. There's not. Of course, we have family and stuff out here, but there's not like
it's not Brooklyn.
It's right. It's not Brooklyn, or
I can't walk down the block and do 900 things together.
Right. Exactly. So, getting used to like, okay, well, you have to find things that bring you joy too. Like, your thing is the game.
Yeah.
Like, he could play the game from sun up to sundown.
Yeah, I've done way too much time on a game.
Yeah, he could do game, or you like Batman or whatever like that.
That conversation we had earlier about me being a child and immature, There we go.
Okay, yes, you like Batman and
From
all
the
that.
90s. That cartoon's awesome. Anyway.
You like Batman and all of that. And so just me kind of just finding my own rhythm as we're still together. We still do stuff together. We still prioritize spending time together. But we also have to prioritize not being together sometimes, and that we do individual things that we like. And that was kind of bothering me at first. I was like, oh, so you don't want to hang out with me. You don't want to be around me. And it's like, no, I just want to also preserve my individuality as a person. So
those are conversations that have to be had. That have
Right.
to be had in our part. That because like when we first got married and stuff, I was like, oh, I want to be with you all the time, also. But not to say like it burns out. You know, it doesn't take away that I love you and all that stuff.
Right.
It's just like I don't want to have to go to, you know, what's that?
Sephora?
Sephora. Yeah, I was going to say Panther or something. I don't want to have to go to Sephora.
How did I know that's what you were talking about?
Because that's... any guy who's watching this with his wife or girlfriend in the background knows what I'm talking about. Where, like, you go on those Sephora runs that you get dragged to, and you're like, oh, I'd rather just stay outside, but I'll come inside just to keep my head, like, moving, I guess. You know, like, just the lights and movement. I don't want to keep doing Sephora. Like, do you enjoy going to Home Depot with me? If I had to go to Home Depot every time, you have no idea what's going on at the time.
Not at
you know,
all.
so it's like the same thing. We enjoy different stuff.
Yeah.
But the issue that we're having here is, oh, you don't want to spend time with me.
Right. Exactly.
When really, it's not about spending the time together. It's you want to do something that I don't really want to do. Let's talk about it instead of getting mad at each other about it.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Because it came off where you were getting mad about it, and I was like, well, now I have to do this to make her happy, and it's something I don't want to do, but it's a lot of things a lot of the time, you know? You don't just go on a Sephora run. It turns into 9 different things, you know?
Mini shopping spree.
We go a whole shopping spree at that point, and it's multiple times throughout the week, not just the Sephora runs, but, you know, other places.
Probably why we got no money now.
You know, which is why we're broke. No, that's the real video here. This is why we're poor. But yeah, those are the conversations you have to be had. It doesn't mean we don't spend time together.
Right.
It's just the time that we do spend together, we make it a valuable time spent together. Yes, we go shopping together, not as frequently, but like, hey, we got to go get a card or something and some milk, or we'll go to BJ's and we'll go shopping at BJ's. You know, food shopping, things like that. Like, those are necessary. But also, you have to spend time together that's valuable time spent together. That we make a point to try our best and go out on dates on Friday. Whether it be a big, let's go out to dinner and then, like, a movie or whatever, or just a movie, or, you know, in a couple of cases, let's just go get ice cream, you know? Just to spend time together.
Right.
Or let's go for a walk in the park just to spend time together in the park. You know, it doesn't have to be every single thing every single time, because there's going to be days where you want to be alone, or times where I want to be alone. You know, and not to be recessive and not to be a recluse, but because you just kind of want alone time sometimes.
Yeah, because you're still an individual.
Yeah.
Like we're married, we're a unit, and we operate collectively, but also you're still Joey and I'm still Kia. We didn't morph into like one giant person.
Yeah.
What role? I guess.
Does God play in our lives?
Does God play in our lives in marriage? And I guess how does that like play into the whole like year, us getting through a year or whatever like that?
There's power in prayer. That's one. All those things of the stresses and the issues, and even the good things. Like, just because like things aren't bad doesn't mean God doesn't exist. I know people like to call on God for help for everything, but like there's situations where like you just thank Him, and like it's not hard. Like, you can literally just say thank you. It's not a MLA format paragraph, and you know you have nothing to say. You know, like you can be gratuitous, and
we should be.
And we should be. You know, and I thank God for you all the time, whether you know it or not. But
Likewise.
whether I know it or not.
No, you know it.
Okay, I know it. But yeah, like an individual and collectively putting our cares onto God. It's like the only way you're gonna get through stuff half the time anyway.
Yeah.
When you put Christ first in anything, everything kind of works out. You know, the whole falling into place, everything falls into place. That's where things fall into place. Because when you're doing everything by the standard of God, how it's supposed to be made, the world standard doesn't hold up to it. So yeah, you can do the whole I gotta grind and all that stuff, you know, and absolutely kill yourself to get ahead, or you can just cast your cares on God and just do everything and ask for His will to be done. If it's His will, it works out, you know. That's in general. In terms of being married, like you're gonna hit bumps in the road. There's no ifs, ands, and buts. We're dealing with another person who's got emotions and feelings that are not your emotions and feelings. Whether they line up, 10% to 99%, there's always gonna be something that doesn't 100%. And we're both very we're both leaders, I guess is a good way to say it. I really can't think. We're both heads.
I don't want to say dominant because I feel like dominant is kind of the wrong word, but
yeah. But when we both have something set, we're set on it. So when we both are set on something differently, we kind of butt heads on stuff. Sometimes we just gotta take a step back and pray on it.
Yeah.
And really just calm down and be like, all right, so let's take it easy here, As the husband, I'm supposed to be the priest of the household, so I'm supposed to, be asking God for stuff, and help. And a lot of the times, it's really the only way that we've gotten through anything half the time, Like I said, I can't think of it on the top of my head. Thank God, I don't have to remember anything terrible, but at some point you gotta just kind of give it to God. It becomes something festering or issues that we've had earlier on where it's well, this is bothering me. It's easy to just get mad about it and, be petty.
Right.
Or you can just kind of pray. Just literally just pray. And it kind of, not that it just goes away, but it just kind of falls into place. The answer just happens to make its way into your life. Sometimes reading the Bible is more than enough, pray on it still. But reading God's word and understanding what He wants out of a marriage and stuff really helps with a situation, And it's good also, side note, to nip something early on instead of letting it fester and being oh, I'm just not going to let it bother me right now.
And I would say, just to interrupt you real quick, that I'm more of a let it fester type of person.
Absolutely. And I'm more hey, let's solve this right now without thinking about it.
Right. I'm more of a well, I'm not going to talk about it. I know you asked me 15 times if something was wrong, but I'm going to keep saying, no, nothing is wrong. I'm not going to talk about it, but then I'm going to treat you differently.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've been working on. Because I don't like that smile.
No, because I'm thinking, this is something that we're working on now.
Right. It's something that, I've been working on because I don't know. The nip it in the butt thing, it's well, now I'm not in the headspace to do it. I don't care anymore. I just don't even want to talk about it anymore.
I know. It's funny because I know what you mean when things go wrong at work for me. I shut down.
Yeah, I shut down.
That's funny that we can both work on it now, and solve the problem. But I have the same issue. Not to cut you off.
No. I cut you off.
You did?
Yeah, I was like, let me just interrupt for a second.
This coffee isn't doing enough for me right now.
No. Okay, you know what I also learned is that we are very similar. Don't get me wrong, we have a lot of differences, but sometimes we do stuff and we're I was gonna say that, or I was gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? We have those moments where oh wow, we are very alike in a lot of ways. You mentioned how we're both dominant. That's true. We both are this is what I said, this is what I want. You know what I'm saying? But there's other things too where we're just
you know what's cool? And I'm sure other couples go through it too.
For sure.
But we have the same humor.
Sometimes.
And there'll be sometimes, but there's a lot of things where I'll be thinking of it and she'll come out and say it. And I think that's pretty funny. Yeah. So, because I'm I'm thinking of it, if I say this, is she going to laugh? Or is she going to be oh, that's come on.
Too far.
And then she's the one who says it and I'm man, that's funny. And this is a reoccurring, on a daily basis. Yeah. So it's funny. And how, something will happen and we'll both catch it and just kind of give each other that look and we're
I was gonna bring that up. Yeah. I was gonna bring that up. That's one of my favorite things about marriage.
my best friend. That's my best
Yes,
friend. That's
you're my
it.
best friend too.
Yeah.
Is that is that we will like I'm not gonna say where we were, but like we looked across the room at each other and we both knew like and it was just really funny because I knew what he was thinking and he didn't have to say anything to me and he knew exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are some things I like about marriage. But anyways, something else that you were talking about that you learned is that we don't just marry the person, we marry a family. So you want to talk about
that? My mom told me that like forever ago, but she's 1,000% right. Shout out to my mom. But when you get married, you don't just marry the person you're marrying the whole family. So I've had the honor and privilege of marrying Kia's whole family. And as weird as that sounded, that worded weird. But her brothers, his sister, her mom, awesome, aunts, cousins, everybody is like awesome. Um, yeah, and thank God, because you can have some like crazy people in your family, but it's everyone's cool. Everyone's like really accepting, really cool, easy to talk to, kind of like you. But it's important. You're gonna get married to someone, spend the rest of your life with them, and they come from someplace already. They have their family that's been around since they were born, and then some. So you have to like be mindful, and I'm sure you hear it all the time. Oh, the son-in-law doesn't get along with the mother-in-law, or the daughter doesn't get along with her mother-in-law. Like it's always the mother-in-law, but you know, thank God it worked out where like we get along with everyone.
Yeah, your mom is great too.
And your mom is awesome, even though she cheats in Press Your Luck, the game.
No, she doesn't.
And many other board games. Kat, I'm talking to you. Cheating in the games. There's no way that you beat me.
My mom is gonna report this video.
I beat her in Mario Party, by the way.
Okay.
Just saying.
Anyways.
But yeah, luckily, and not luckily, but thank God we're blessed that I get along with that entire family, as far as I know, and Key gets along with my family.
Got to so, next year. No, I'm kidding.
But it's good, and if it's something that if it is an issue somewhere, it should be worked on 1,000%. But thank God, like that's not a problem. Right. Where everyone's cool, everyone's awesome. And like that's, I really don't know what to say to that. Like there's so many people. It's cool. It's really cool, and it technically made my family huge now because it was me, my mom, and my sister for the longest time. And I guess I could say like I just something with my dad again. So, but I come from a small family for the most part. We're not like the super closest family, but like it's not huge.
Right.
And now you come along, and it's like, well, we're having family gatherings with several people, different last names, and who's second cousins here, and it's cool. It's cool. For me, it's like awesome. So, yeah.
We had to write some stuff down because we were getting all over the place.
We're bad with the.
But I guess the last thing to wrap it up is that I learned the most important thing is just to be yourself. I always see a lot of people on social media, like a lot of women or whatever, say, "Oh, you have to, act like a wife, and you have to." It's like you don't have to be anybody besides yourself, because when you come into a marriage with a facade, then you have to upkeep that facade throughout your entire marriage.
Then you're
and it's like after that crumbles, like what else do you guys have left? Like I myself, sometimes that's weird. Sometimes that's a stinky attitude. Sometimes it's an encouraging, supportive wife. We all have phases and different things that we go through, but just be yourself. And I think I love that about our marriage is that I can be myself and you are very accepting of who I am as a person. And, we recognize that we both have flaws that we are praying through and working on. And that's really all you could do because it's about the growth at the end of the day. Is there any last words you want to chime in?
Yeah, I mean, just accepting each other for who you really are.
Right.
And something that I appreciate in our marriage is even when we just started like day one, first date, way before getting married, was being like on. I mean, that's from my back on. Is we're honest. Like it's just like we came in and we're like, listen, we want a date to get married. Like that was the intent in the first place. We don't
Right.
want to play any games. No one's trying to like forget that stuff. You know, like there's no depth to any of that if you're not serious. What's the point? You know, just to have fun. Then you don't need to go on like serious dates and relationship stuff. Like it doesn't make sense to me. Um, but yeah, just really appreciating you for who you are. You appreciate me for who I am, and I don't have to like put up any walls or like have to pretend or anything like that. Like it. You don't have to act. You shouldn't have to act, especially if you love the person. Like it
Right.
doesn't make any sense to do that. Then, like you said, you have to play pretend for your whole life, and then I guess some people can pull it off for a little while before it starts to crumble, but the writing's on the wall at that point. You're not. It's not a good foundation for a healthy relationship, let alone a healthy marriage.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Thank you guys for tuning in, for watching our video. I know it was a little all over the place, but
Whenever I speak, it's all over the place.
we thank you for tuning in, and we are celebrating 1 year of marriage, and pray to God that we will celebrate many more, and we'll take you guys along for the journey. So, bye.
Bye.